I'm David Shapiro. We're going to talk today about house hacking, which is living for a reduced amount or maybe even nothing. And we're going to give you some examples of how to do that, and then through a series of videos show you some additional ways you could do it as well. So today we're going to talk about single family homes, but we'll also be talking about Airbnb, duplexes, and other ways that you can live for free. My colleague
Mitchell Shepard.
And we're with the Shapiro Group. We're a local real estate team that can help you buy and sell here in Austin. So we're going to dive right in and talk about some different examples. Let me just start with some numbers to give you an example of how this could look. Because I think people right now, they hear what's going on in the news. The interest rates are so high, especially if you were like me. I bought my first house when I was 20. I rented to roommates, and that allowed me to live for free. And if you're in that situation, you're in your 20s, you're like, man, it would be really cool to live for free. It'd be cool to own a house. It'd be cool to live with my friends. These all sound great. How can I go about doing this when interest rates are so high? Well, historically, interest rates have been around this level. It's really not that high. When I got my first property back in 2006, I had an adjustable rate loan, which was 6.25%. And if I got a fixed rate loan, which is the ideal, it probably would have been about 7%. So it's not that much different than today. And I was able to house hack and live for free. And so I'm going to just show you here some example numbers of what that could look like. So this is a calculator that we put together, and you can see a purchase price of about $525,000 with 5% down. Now, you can go as low as 3.5% down, so there's a little bit of flexibility in this number, but we're using 5 for this example, which with closing costs comes to about $36,000 that somebody would have to have saved up in order to buy a home. At a 7.25% interest rate, and for you, you'd reach out to us, we would connect you with the lender, and we would work through this process and actually get some defined numbers. So this is kind of an estimate based on just some generalities here. But you're looking at a principal and interest payment of $3,400. And be careful when you're looking at properties online. If you're new to this, some of them just show that number there, and it feels like that's the whole mortgage payment. But what we call it is PITI, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, PITI payment. And so then you have to calculate it in taxes, insurance. In this case, since we're putting down less than 20%, there's what's called PMI or mortgage insurance, and then the HOA fee, which here is pretty nominal at $29 a month. And that gives us a total payment of $4,600. You might be like, holy smokes, that feels like a lot. I'm only paying $1,800 or $2,000 in rent right now. But $4,600, well, what's going to happen then is you're going to rent out a couple rooms. So in this scenario, we've got 3 rooms at $700 each. Maybe you know some people that are even willing to pay more than that. So we're trying to be conservative. And one thing you'll notice with us is we're always trying to keep the numbers on the lower side. So that way we want to under-promise and then over-deliver. And so here we've got a net cost to you about $2,500. But that's just part of the story, because the way that owning a home works is a lot different. You hear these people say, well, if I'm renting, I'm just throwing money away. Right? Well, that's where the difference with owning a home is, because portion of this payment is actually going towards paying off principal. And so here, Mitchell, what we're showing them is that in the first year, they're going to pay down $4,800 of their mortgage. So this is that difference between renting and owning. Whereas renting, 100% of it goes away.
Right.
But when you're owning, a portion of that is paying down the loan, and essentially you get that back when you sell the property. And that averages out to about $400 a month in the first year. And we're doing it by year because every year the amount that you're paying towards the principal goes up. So in year 2, it's going to be more than $4,800, right? But we're just going to talk about year 1, again, being conservative. And there's going to be an additional expense by owning a home. So what's the difference between owning and renting? As an owner, now you're responsible for maintenance. So maybe on this home, let's just say you're spending $150 a month on average. Most months you're not going to spend anything on maintenance. And then all of a sudden you're going to have to fix a garbage disposal. Right. Or maybe after a couple of years, you got to replace your dishwasher. Sure. Things like that come up with owning a home. So let's just say it averages $150 a month for this example. Now, when we're working with you on a specific property, me and Mitchell can help you hone in by saying, okay, what's the age of this home? Like, okay, it's a pretty new home. Like, we're not gonna have much for a while. Might even have a warranty if you're buying a brand new home, which is pretty cool. Or maybe it's 10 years old and we know that the water heater is gonna be going soon, and so we wanna plan for that.
Sure.
So these are all things that we're going to plan for. So basically that comes to, this is annual maintenance expense. So let's change this to $1,800. So it gives us our $150 a month. So their net cost after principal pay down is now $2,300. So we're getting closer to this equivalent to renting, right? So you're actually paying $4,600. You're getting rent. You're getting to pay down your mortgage. Now you're at about a $2,300 equivalent to renting. So still a little bit more than maybe what you're paying rent currently, but there's also a tax advantage.
Right.
And so this is one that we're not going to get into too much detail on because it really varies by your tax situation. But for some people, it could be another, let's see, $800 a month, like in potential tax savings. That's pretty good. So now this person's net cost, and let's just say you're in a lower tax bracket maybe, so this person's only in the 25% tax bracket, right? So these numbers we can adjust when we talk with you more about your situation. But now the net cost after the tax benefit is $1,600, which could be potentially lower than what you're paying in rent right now.
Right.
And then the kicker, which has been amazing in Austin over the last decade, is appreciation. So now you own the home, and now you get to reap the rewards if the market continues to appreciate. If you're like us, we're really strong believers in Austin, and we feel like the market's going to continue to appreciate. We've seen about 8% on average over the last 10 to 12 years. And so if we assume that number, 8%, let's even dumb it down and say 5%. So 5% of $500,000 is $25,000 a year in potential appreciation. So that's over $2,000 a month. So now what's a $1,600 cost after all these benefits, if you were to sell this several years down the road after getting that type of appreciation, you're now up. You've actually lived for free and made some money. And this is the huge power of owning real estate. There's all these different dynamics that come together. Maybe you didn't know about the tax benefits, or you didn't know how amortization, which is this portion here where you're paying down some of the principal, worked. And we're happy to sit down with you and explain this in more detail in addition to this video. But it's super powerful, and this is what I did on my first property. And now I own this property that continues to pay for itself because I still own it. So once I moved out, I had tenants move in and it's fully rented.
Right.
I'm continuing to pay down principal.
Right.
I'm continuing to get some tax advantages, and it continues to appreciate. And so all these benefits continue. So one really cool thing you can do is move into a home, live in it for a year, 2, 3 years. When you're ready to move on, turn it into a rental and do this again. Because you get better interest rates and better terms when buying as an owner occupant. So I think it's one of the best ways to get your first rental is doing it as an owner occupant and being willing to move into the property. So I wanted to just get you guys kind of familiar with how the numbers could work out, how you could actually live for free. Now, Mitchell went and found properties that he felt like were some of the best fits for somebody in the situation where they want to live with roommates and house hack. So now we're going to actually look at real properties that are available to buy in Austin right now and talk about what this might look like.
So we have 10 properties here. They are all within at least a 25 to 30 minute range from downtown various amenities.
Just show you on the map here so you can kind of see roughly where all these homes are, right? So we wanted to keep it under a certain price point.
Of about 550-ish is around average.
Yeah, for the metro area. So, if you wanted to be around that price as a buyer. And so you can see kind of they go all the way up to Cedar Park, over to Pflugerville, in Northeast Austin here, over in Del Valley, Southeast, right? So it's a lot of these surrounding areas because of the price point and the size of the home. We did a minimum of 4 bedrooms, thinking that like you want a room, maybe you want 2 roommates or 3 roommates. I did it once where I had 2 roommates and then we had an office.
Right.
So that way there's, especially in today's day and age, that was back in 2012 I did that. And in today's day and age, way more people are working from home. Yeah. So maybe you want a couple offices, maybe a 5-bedroom is better. This is going to depend on the friends you want to live with and what their working situation is, the setup of the house. Right. There's a lot of variables here. Certainly, it sounds very appealing to be like, I could have a 6-bedroom house here for $525,000. I mean, think about that. Some people might be sitting here going like, can I just get 5 roommates? And like, they're all paying me $700 and now I'm making money.
Right, from,
basically, or just living for free before any of the other additional benefits with the taxes and all those things still happen, right? So there's a lot of benefits here. Or maybe you just want to have a little more space. Maybe you stick to four of you and there's 2 offices. So there's a lot of flexibility when you have more bedrooms.
So this was built in 2001. It is located in the Harris Branch Parkway area. This is a total of 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 3 are full bathroom, and then 1's a half bath.
It's just under 4,000 square feet. So yeah, the other thing to consider, right, is like how many full bathrooms do you need for the number of people? You don't want a 2 full bathroom house and have 6 roommates.
Right.
Like that would probably be, that's like New York loft style and people do that all the time. But in Austin, not necessary. Like take advantage of being able to have a little bit more space.
Absolutely.
But it just depends on you and your desires and the friends you want to live with. So there's a lot of flexibility around this. That's where we're going to really dive in when you reach out to us. There's a link below. Go ahead and schedule a call or just shoot us a text. And we'd love to hop on a Zoom and actually go through this with you. directly and talk about this. Let's just take a look at the photos, just kind of see what we're getting at. So pool table probably doesn't come with the house, but everything's negotiable in real estate. So if you really want the pool table, maybe we can work that into the deal. You can see stainless steel appliances, granite counters, the kitchen, 2001, so it's a 12-year-old home at this point. And so cabinets are maybe a little bit outdated. You know, one option with a home like this is maybe you're really handy and you're like, you know what? I know how to paint those cabinets. I know how to make this place look a lot better for very little, and you can add some sweat equity. And this house, even without appreciation over time, you can get what's called forced appreciation. You put sweat equity into the house and now it's worth more. So, you know, 2 months down the road, you're done with these renovations or these updates and you've already added 20K in value and it only cost you a couple grand in paint. And so there's things that can be done. You know, with this house, for the average person moving in, like, you know, looks like it's in pretty good shape. You know, maybe this has been overlooked by a lot of buyers because it doesn't look fantastic in the photos. Like the staging is 2 random chairs in the middle of the room. So this house, fully staged, would look a lot better. And even just if you're really good at decorating, I've had clients where on the exit of a home, because their place is so well decorated, they're getting tens of thousands of dollars more than neighboring homes that look exactly the same. And there's some, again, easy upgrades with light fixtures in here that are so outdated. Maybe you want to put a cooler vanity in here, a more updated mirror. So these are all, like, this house, since it's built in 2001, the bones of it are most likely, and we're going to do an inspection on the home, we're going to have an inspector actually crawl through the attic and get on the roof and make sure this house actually does have good bones. But assuming that it does, it's a lot of cosmetic stuff, which is really easy to update. And you could do it over time. Like maybe you're gonna live in this house for 2 years and you just do it slowly here and there as you have some extra money. You know, this looks like a second living room, right? Because you can see it's open here to the stairs. So I think that's really important if you're gonna have multiple roommates, is to have a second living area. So this home does check a lot of boxes for what would be a really good house hack. Wow, and then it backs up to a little green area, which is really nice to not have a neighbor directly behind you. I mean, there is, but it's on the other side of this. And with that clear fence and the trees, you saw how that looked in the photos. I think that's like a really nice look. My first house did not have that type of backyard. The backyard was probably the size of this patio right here.
No big palm trees in your backyard, did you?
No. I just think, like, in today's day and age, most people are working behind a computer. To have a house to like do some side projects on, there's other benefits besides the financial that we haven't talked about. So let's dive into that.
Some great non-financial benefits, David, would be pride in ownership. It feels great after just a long, hard day to come home, you own it, you know it's yours, you don't have to worry about whether or not you want to make changes to something. You could even epoxy the garage floor, make a gym, and it would even add value. From a payment standpoint, you're fixed. You don't have to worry about, at the end of your 6 or 8 month lease, having to renew. It's fixed. You can pull out whenever you need, or stay locked in for how long as you need.
And I think people overlook this. Like every 10 months, they have to start thinking about, do I move? Where do I move? Do I stay? And you just stay as long as you want. And when it's time to move, like your lifestyle dictates it, then you can decide, okay, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna rent this house out. I'm gonna sell it, whatever that is. And that can be after 3 months. They just decide, yeah, you know what, or I got a new job, right? They're not stuck in a lease they have to get out of. They can just turn it into a rental and move to the other place if it makes sense for them. So I think that's an overlooked benefit of owning a home. Of course, like you mentioned, being able to add value to the home. There's just a ton of benefits of ownership. And some people, it's really hard to really put it into words. I can tell you as much, but once you own and you've had that feeling, you're like, oh, I get it now. Right. So I bought my first home at 20, so I was pretty young. And one of my friends who was 21, we were working a home show, and I was like, hey, I gotta go like run around and check out. I saw these really cool gutters. And he's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Why are you so pumped about gutters? But it is a cool thing that happens once you own a home. And I highly recommend, I think everybody should try to go own a home at some point. And it's really possible in the Austin area, especially if you use a strategy like house hacking.
100%.
So I hope that this sparks some inspiration for you after seeing this video. If it does, go ahead and share it with a friend, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel because we're gonna have more really cool stuff like this. But we're not done. We're gonna keep going through some of these homes, and I wanna show you some other options for what house hacking in a house in Austin could look like. Okay, so 621 Marrow Street. And what do you like about this one?
I liked that this had a very open floor plan. Seemed easy to house a couple of roommates in. Doesn't seem like you'd be rubbing up against them too much. Just a nice flow of the home.
Yeah, so this home's a little bit older. Let's see, it was built in 1979. It's just over 2,000 square feet, so it's almost half the size. It's only 4 bedrooms. It's a little bit less expensive. And this is the list price, right? And so list price is one indicator, but depending on what's going on in this neighborhood and what comps look like, we're never just gonna like, all right, list price is this, let's go make an offer.
Right.
We're gonna look at what other homes have sold for and give you guidance on how much you should offer. Some of these homes might be listed super high. Some of them, they might hit the market. It's like a perfect home for what we've been looking for because we've been in the market, we've decided what your criteria is, and we're like, this is actually underpriced. And we want to move quickly. We might even want to offer more than asking. Just think of asking as somewhat arbitrary. We're going to do the research and tell you what this home should sell for. It's really important to have a professional that can guide you. Our fee is actually paid for by the seller. So most of the time, you don't even have to worry about coming out of pocket for that. And we're gonna help you negotiate the best price of the home and make sure you have confidence in the price that you're paying when we get to that point. So let's just take a look here at Morrow again. I wanna show location first so people get a sense for where this is. So this is between 35 and Mopac. So that's generally a more developed part of town, hence why it was built in 1979. One thing is pretty close to South First, which could provide a little bit more, street noise when you're in the yard. It's also really easy to get in and out of the neighborhood. That was one thing I learned. I actually lived not too far from this home in that house. We've been talking about my first house hack in Austin. And one thing was like, it just took a while to get out of the neighborhood, which really adds to the time to get downtown. So if you're you want to make sure you can get out easily, meaning go out on the town, which makes me sound so old when I say it that way. How do you say it, Mitchell?
I guess we still say go out.
Go out?
We still say go out.
I know. It's all right. So we go out. We used to go to Rainy Street, and you could be from Rainy down 35 to this neighborhood in 12 minutes at night. It's pretty nuts because Rainy's right off the highway. Here, this house is really not that far off the highway. Down Ditmar, and you're there. 5 beds, 4 full baths.
This is the one with the full.
Okay, so this is where it's a trade-off. Now, one thing I noticed is that it doesn't have a garage.
Correct.
Right? So you go from 3 full baths to 4 full baths. You have 5 bedrooms versus the other 6. Right? So these are all things that we can talk through. Obviously going and looking at the houses and feeling okay, what does this feel like? What's the neighborhood feel like? There's a lot of factors here to take into account. And we're gonna really help you guide you through this, having done this a lot. We're gonna tell you things that maybe you hadn't even thought of, right? Maybe you hadn't thought about the flow of the house and how that's going to interact as roommates, right? Okay, oh yeah, it makes sense I would want a second living room. Oh, it makes sense we don't want all 4 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms grouped to one side of the house where
everybody's going to 24/7.
Exactly, right? Spread out, so if you're coming in at different hours, getting up at different hours, it's not as much of a conflict. This one, again, could use some updating, so this could be another opportunity for some sweat equity if that's what you want to do. So these are all things we're going to help you kind of take into account and the overall ownership costs of a home like this versus the other one, and help you make that decision. And sometimes a neighborhood like this is appealing because of the part of town, but another one's more appealing because of the style of the home, right? There's a lot of factors. All right, let's talk about a new build because that's a little bit different than these two. So we got a couple that are 2022 builds. And then we've got 2 here that are 2023, and all of these are 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. We got 2-car garage, 2 living rooms. They're all pretty similar. Now we got square footage. They're all 2,200 and up. A couple that are 25, and then lot size. So this looks like the big difference here is 0.11 versus 0.18. And let's just dive in and look at this one. Let's compare these lot sizes and see how that looks when we look, if it even shows up on the aerial. No. Right, so the satellite view is outdated, so that doesn't even really help us right now. But we can take a look here and see what a new home looks like. And what are some of the cool things about somebody buying a new home, Mitchell?
Some great benefits to new construction homes are the 1-2-10s home warranty. You have 1 year bumper to bumper warranty. You have a 2-year mechanical warranty on any of your major systems, and then you have a 10-year structural warranty as well for things like slab and foundational issues.
And that 1 year bumper to bumper is really cool because at the end of 11 months, we sometimes even have an inspector go out and you can just find any of these little things because it's the first time it's being lived in. And so things come up that the builder didn't know because they weren't living in the home.
Right.
And so it's really nice to be able to have that and just have the peace of mind for that first year. You're gonna be able to have any of these things that come up handled.
Absolutely.
The other cool thing, these new communities often have amenities. Here we have a really nice swimming pool and playground if you have kids. And let's just take a look at what that's costing monthly. So this HOA is $45 a month. and you get that really beautiful pool. So that's pretty incredible to have access to that for such a low cost. So again, maybe this is important to you. You want a community pool. This home, there's not a ton of interior photos, but this is something we can certainly tour you if you're interested in a home like this. If this one's already sold, we can find something very similar, and we'd love to take you out and show you a home like this in person. So again, reach out to us. Contact info's in the description. This is the smaller of the two lots. So let's just scroll here back to this one, which has a little bit of a bigger lot. Is this in the same community? No, so this one's in Sentinel and this one's in McKinney. So 2-car garage. This one has a lot more photos. You can get a better feel for the home. Big open living space. I like this gray cabinet. It looks very modern. It's like this new shaker style panel. Definitely. Shaker kind of went out. You can see my cabinets are flat. That was in 3 years ago. Shaker's back. Okay, so this is the stuff that we can help you with if you're not sure, but get on Pinterest, poke around. You know, some people love doing that stuff, but if that's not your style, we're staying up to date with all this stuff. Carpets in the bedrooms, you know, if that's something you don't like, you know, it's something that we can potentially go get a house that's like 6 months out from being completed. And this is another thing, like if you have a lease that's coming up and you're like, well, I don't, you know, like my lease is up in 10 months. Right. We might be able to find a home that's going to be done in 8 months. Exactly. And line it up pretty well for you. And then you might even get to make some choices to what you want in the home. Like, hey, I don't want carpets, or I do want carpets, or I want this. And so I think reaching out to us sooner is always better, so we can help you with this and start planning. Pretty nice home. You get a feel for it. Good size yard. So this is, we don't really have a picture of the other yard.
Not a lot of maintenance at all.
Yeah, pretty easy, just lawnmower. Front yard is potentially even covered by the HOA in some of these communities. I haven't looked for this one, but just as like a general rule, something we can look for you. And then the grounds of the HOA, like the medians and the sidewalks, that's all, that grass is all maintained. So here's the floor plan so you can get a sense. So like this is good because if you're for a roommate situation, because you have your master on the other side from these other 2 bedrooms, you have a bedroom on the first floor as well with its own full bath. So this gives you a lot of flexibility for a roommate situation. And so this house is $470,000 right now. So lots of good options. And like, you know, we can basically, what we'll do is go through this calculator with you based on the scenario, kind of figure out interest rates and number of roommates and all these things and show you how this would work out for you. You know, this is something, if you're in your 20s, like you have so much time ahead of you. And it's like, I'm excited for you because this is your opportunity to get started, buy that first home, and potentially, you know, every 2 years be buying the next one, turning this one into a rental, and 10 years down the road, it's like hard sometimes to think that far out, but it's like, what if 10 years from now, that home was worth 50% more, you'd paid down a bunch of the loan, didn't cost you anything that entire time because you had tenants in there renting, paying your mortgage for you, and now all of a sudden you have an asset that's worth 750 grand, and maybe you have a 450 grand loan. Right. So you've got $300,000 in equity in a property. And if you could do that every couple of years, think of what that could do for your life in terms of building wealth and maybe able to retire early, maybe able to do some cooler things later in life, like travel. Travel. Hey, I want to take a 6-month sabbatical. I've got all this equity in this property. That's going to give me a cushion. I'm going to sell it and I'm going to take that as a cushion. Or maybe your payment's low, you refi. That's the other thing, by the way. You could refi this when interest rates go down. And then maybe now you're making money every month on rent, and now you have a little bit of like income that you wouldn't otherwise have. So there's a lot of options here when it comes to house hacking with single family homes.
It's great just to have stuff for everyone to do. Get them out of the house.
It's nice to have a pool area. Maybe somebody wants to go work from the pool on a nice spring day. Absolutely. So it's good to have that. Thanks for joining us to talk about house hacking today. Our next video in the series, we're going to talk about short-term rentals or Airbnb and how you can use that to house hack, which I've done before in a couple different ways. I've done it with that roommate situation where I actually got my roommates to like take a deal where they would leave for the weekend, and so would I. We'd rent out the whole house. We'd all make a little bit extra money. I've done it where I had a duplex, rented out one side, lived in the other. I've rented an apartment and then rented an apartment next door and Airbnb'd one and lived in the other for free off the revenue. So there's a lot of different ways you can use short-term rentals to live for free or at a reduced cost. And we're going to talk about some of those ways you can do that, show you some houses in Austin. That'd be really cool for that concept. And if you want to see that video, go ahead and subscribe. Again, if you got a lot out of this one, send it to a friend that you think would think it's cool. Give it a like, and we look forward to seeing you on that next video.